Hi, I'm Jennet Ingle, the 5 Minute Reedmaker. I was asked by Luke to talk about loose sides. This is such a frustrating problem, right? We're not talking about leaks down by the thread, which are a winding problem usually that can be solved by pulling your thread tighter or winding shorter or just being more careful in your initial setup of the cane on the tube. No, loose sides are more insidious because it's not always obvious what causes them. But we know it when we see it, right? We're talking about those reeds that like gap at the very top, or they just don't grab the plaque tightly when you put it in, or reeds that have weird leaks up by the heart. What can we do about these? I have 3 thoughts. First of all, do carefully check your gouge and shape situation. This may not be something you have control over, of course, if you're not doing your own gouging, but if you are, make sure that your gouger is working symmetrically. Turn your cane around halfway through the process and see if there's more coming off in one direction than in the other. Of course, as you shape, be really careful that your knife doesn't angle over the side of the tip, but stays symmetrical. So that your reed is as close as possible, your finished shape is as close as possible to the dimension of that actual shaper tip. My second thought, after you have ascertained that your gouge and shape are beyond reproach, is to be really careful about the removal of the ears when you wind your blank. I do most of my shaping now on the Reeds and Stuff machine, so I don't really have ears on my cane most of the time. But those ears that you may have on yours are formed when you shape by hand, and you can't quite get all the way to those edges at the top. Some people like to remove the ears before they start to wind. I usually do it afterwards. So here's the reed that I just wound up. You can see how visible those ears are up here. And you can notice that when I blow air through the bottom of the tube, there's definitely air escaping. And it's happening up here where these ears are not allowing the cane to close perfectly correctly. So before I put this reed to bed and before I let it rest for the night and dry in this form, I'm going to go ahead and get those ears off, which I do just with my knife. I slide along. I try to stay as true to the original shape as I can. I just sort of continue to follow the curve. I'm not perfectly happy with the way this feels yet. I can just feel a little bit of a lump on this side under my finger, so I'll keep working just the tiniest bit to clear that up. Now let's see if I can blow air through. And just like that, it's tightened up. Sometimes after you remove the ear, you'll still have gaps. And if that happens, you'll just scrape a little bit at the sides of the tip. Maybe through the center, but with your focus at the edges. And that should encourage your reed to really close tightly up here. Normally, if I don't have ears on my cane, normally if I don't have a gapping problem up there, I don't bother with that step. I just let my blanks dry overnight as they come. But I think it's important that they dry firmly closed to keep from having loose sides. My third thought feels a little controversial because I cannot say for sure that this is the problem. But what I have seen is that people with very loose sides often are actually winding too tightly and starting too low on the cane. And I visualize it to myself this way. If I've got this piece of paper and I've got it creased up here, just sort of like the top of a reed is creased. And then I decide that I'm going to make sure that it's really well lined up down here at the bottom. So this is now analogous to me putting a piece of cane on my tube. And then I'm going to work it up and wind it so tightly, so tightly, so tightly, so tightly. And look at that. By pinching the reed really hard down here before it was quite ready, I have forced a gap up there, which is a much harder issue to solve. So you can easily imagine that if your piece of cane gets set up on your tube, even if your setup is perfectly fine, and you start way down below the top of the tube, and you start winding, and you're winding really tightly, you can pinch this cane into a position that it doesn't want to be in, and you can persuade it to bulge at the top, just like our paper did, as you pinch it really tightly down here and force it up toward that fold. So what I recommend if I have people with, when I have students that have consistent loose sides, is actually to ease off a little bit on the pressure of their wind, to start their wind a little bit closer to where the crossover is going to be. You still have to be tight, of course, but to a little bit allow the cane to settle on the tube where it wants to be, to slack off a little bit as you're working so that the cane, an organic material, actually can get comfortable on the tube. And certainly if you're starting way low, don't get tight until you're up near the top and until you see that everything is going the way you want it to. Those 3 suggestions have dealt with most of the loose side issues that I have encountered before. So I super hope that this has been helpful to you. This has been a 5-Minute Reedmaker lesson. You can follow these short videos right here on YouTube or on my Facebook page, Jennet Ingle Oboist, and you can subscribe if you wish. If you have questions or concerns, or you want to order reeds or cane, you can find me at jennetingle.com. In fact, I would love to hear what else I can help you with and what my next short video should address for you. Please let me know. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.